In the past week, we had two harem anime where a guy who got isekai'd had sex with his slave. Or we were supposed to. The sex scene in Black Summoner was cut from the anime, but it was in the light novel. One of those scenes is uncomfortable, awkward, and cringy. The other was soft, heartwarming, and delightful. And what was the difference? Why does one scene make the bile rise in our throats and the other one makes our hearts go doki doki? Before we get started, I'm going to take a moment to quickly ask you to like and subscribe. I've been very happy with the growth this channel has had so far, and I'm excited to see where we're going. If you're looking for ways to support the channel directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/Danon. You can sign up to join our Discord and participate in our monthly manga club meeting, or you can hire me to do a video on a topic of your choosing. The choice is yours. With that out of the way, let's get back to the video. So, which series am I talking about? The first one is Harem in the Labyrinth of Another World. The world building and system are pretty interesting. Everyone has a character card that can be shown to people, and is housed in your left hand. People have classes, and depending on what you do, you learn new skills and earn new classes. The main character, Michio, thinks he's in a video game at first, and gleefully kills the bandits attacking the small farming village he finds himself in. But when he tries to log out, he realizes that this is reality, and he can't escape. Michio heads to the city with the cards of the dead bandits and the loot he got from their corpses, receives the bounty, and then wanders around town for a bit. He's invited in by a slave merchant who shows him his wares, specifically Roxanne, a large-breasted and young beast girl. The slave merchant, a very savvy businessman, sells Michio on the idea of buying her and taking her with him into the dungeon. Michio is enraptured with Roxanne. He needs to own her. He realizes that he won't earn enough money just killing low-level monsters in the dungeon, and decides to try his hand at bounty hunting again. So he stalks and murders several men and women in order to turn in their cards for money. All so he can buy Roxanne. And when he finally buys her, Michio decides he'd rather wait until night to lose his virginity. So Michio and Roxanne spend the day shopping. That night, Roxanne is hesitant. Michio has to order her to do everything. Stand here. Let me touch you. Take off your clothes. Wash my back. Sure, he washes her as well, but that's no different than someone washing their car. He takes pride in his property and wants to see it well maintained. And then he finally does the deed. He successfully loses his virginity. It's not romantic. It's not even erotic. It's extremely censored, and I don't blame Crunchyroll for this one. I'm pretty sure the censors were put there when the anime aired in Japan, but the uncensored version will be on DVDs in the future. We get a flash forward to Michio and a harem of girls, all slaves, and he visits the town he was first in. There, he finds a boy who looks a lot like him. Maybe this is a what-if event, but we're meant to believe that this is a child he fathered in that town. So we see that Michio is someone who doesn't take responsibility for his actions. And this guy is supposed to be the hero? Now, I'm all for flawed heroes, but treating people like objects is not something that heroes do. A lot of the problems in the world come from people being treated like objects. And in Michio's mind, Roxanne is nothing but a toy for him to use in order to satisfy his own desires. Now, the other anime is Black Summoner. Kelvin winds up reincarnated in another world with no memories of his previous life. The voice of the goddess of reincarnation Melfinia whispering sweet nothings in his head, the ultra-rare class of Summoner, and the skills Double Growth and Double Skill Points. He first gets a slime as a summoned companion, and the two level up together. He then defeats a ghostly Black Knight character named Gerard, who also joins his party. He now has enough skill points to rank up his white magic and green magic, green being wind and nature aspected, and white being holy and healing magic. He uses the money he's earned from adventuring to buy a slave girl. The slave girl is cursed, and anyone who touches her catches fire. Calvin uses his newly leveled up white magic to break the curse, and Ethel, the slave girl, is able to touch someone. She clutches Calvin's hand and weeps, overwhelmed at the kindness this man had shown her. Now, if they'd had sex that night, I'd be a bit concerned. But despite the landlady of the inn they're staying at making them stay in a room with only one bed, Kelvin doesn't lay a hand on Ethel. In fact, he makes no move on her other than the occasional headbat. The two go on adventures together and gain levels. Ethel becomes an archer, and the curse of the Fire Dragon King was transformed into a blessing by Kelvin, so she's a naturally gifted fire mage as well. She can imbue her arrows with flame magic and cause them to explode. Gerard is the vanguard or tank, Ethel is the rearguard or ranged damage dealer, and Kelvin and Clotho providing support and helping where needed. After finally dragging Kelvin on a date, with the help of Angie, the guild receptionist, the three of them are confronted by a scumbag prince from another country. After having their date interrupted, Kelvin puts the prince and his bodyguards in their place, then heads home with Ethel. That night, Ethel is grateful to Kelvin for protecting her, but she begins crying. Tearfully, Ethel confesses that she's worried that Kelvin finds her unattractive. Kelvin panics. "What are you talking about? You're the prettiest girl I've ever seen." Ethel then asks him why he hasn't taken her yet. Kelvin explains that she should only do that with someone she loves, but Ethel interrupts him. She loves him. As a man, as her master. She loves Kelvin. Now, in the anime, Kelvin decides to buy a house with separate rooms, otherwise he won't survive. However, in the light novel, that's not what happens. I'll just read the scene to you. Don't worry, it's not lewd. "Are you sure about this? I probably won't be able to hold back." "Yes, I'm sure. For someone to love me so much that he loses himself for a while, it would reassure me. Truly. Would you do that for me, please?" The next morning, for the first time since I brought Ethel home, she and I both ended up sleeping in. Do you see the difference? In one scene, the girl is being used and forced against her will, but in the other one, she has a choice. She brings up the subject, and when asked to confirm, she says yes again. Yes, both girls are slaves, but Ethel was offered her freedom by Kelvin and decided to stay a slave. She takes pride in having Kelvin, the man who saved her and taught her the warmth of human touch, as her master. So she is consenting to be his slave. Roxanne was never given a choice. She serves as both a shield and an own-a-hole for Michio. He only values her as his property, not as a person. And that consent is one of the biggest reasons I love Black Summoner. Kelvin winds up doing all kinds of crazy things throughout the series, but he always has consent. Now, that's not to say he's flawless. He has a psychotic love of battle. Not fighting for fighting's sake, he just loves testing himself against strong opponents. Everyone pretty much calls him a battle junkie. He gets a creepy grin on his face, and his family and party members tease him about it. I mentioned I like flawed heroes, and this is what I meant. Not heroes who view people as objects and use them as they please, but someone who, when confronted with an obstacle, grins like a maniac and charges into the fight. That is something I enjoy. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, a huge shout out to my editor Cute Stuff. I couldn't make these videos without her. If you'd like to hire her to edit your own videos, there's a link to her Fiverr page below. I post new videos every Monday, but we're trying to get back to a twice-weekly schedule. It all depends on how busy we are with jobs and kids. Or you can click here to watch additional videos. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all again next time on Musings by Dana.